What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over why I prefer the Thunder Burst SMG over the Combat AR in Chapter 5 Season 3. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below which of these weapons you prefer to run as your spray weapon. And before we get into anything, I'm just going to say that this is my opinion on why I prefer this weapon. I've just been getting asked this a bunch in a lot of my videos and streams, so I thought I would make a video talking about it, not only to kind of answer those questions, but also it's like, if enough people are asking about something, there's typically a lot of people who also are thinking that just don't care to comment, you know? So that's what we're going to talk about, just my preference. I think both of these weapons are very good. If they vaulted the Thunder Burst tomorrow, I don't think it would be like the end of the world for me to use the Combat AR. I just think the Thunder Burst is better for how I want to play the game. One of the main reasons why I prefer the Thunder Burst SMG over the Combat AR is going to come down to the hipfire, because the Thunder Burst SMG has probably the best hipfire of any weapon in Fortnite history, and the Combat AR actually has no hipfire aim assist on controller, so that makes it way less consistent to hit shots if you're a controller player when hipfiring with the Combat AR over the Thunder Burst SMG. And I think this is pretty important because my favorite shotgun this season is the Gatekeeper shotgun, and so if you're using the Gatekeeper shotgun, it's really good. But its main downside is magazine size, and if you get drum mag, you have 5 shots, which is good, and it should be more than enough for you to be able to get an elimination, sometimes 2. But when in situations where like you maybe miss a few shots or you don't get the best damage out of your shotgun, you're playing team game mode, so you have multiple opponents to deal with, or you're getting like chain third-partied, those are situations where like you're probably going to have to go to your secondary weapon in close range. And the Thunder Burst SMG like excels in those situations over the Combat AR for me, because I'm a controller player, and then one has aim assist and one doesn't. And if you're a controller player hip firing with a weapon that has no aim assist, it's going to be a lot more inconvenient to use than the one who does. And then throw the aim assist situation out the window. Like, let's just ignore that for now. The Combat AR has worse aim assist than the Thunder Burst SMG, because the Thunder Burst SMG has perfectly accurate hipfire if you have the laser sight. When you have the laser sight attachment, there is no bloom at all when using the Thunder Burst SMG. So we're comparing a weapon that has a degree of spread, and so the bullets can go in a larger pattern, thus being less consistent, the Combat AR, versus a weapon that has 100% accuracy in the Thunder Burst SMG. And so weighing those options, even regardless of aim assist, the Thunder Burst SMG is a much better weapon to hipfire with because it has 100% accurate hipfire. Like I said, it is the best hipfire weapon probably in the history of Fortnite, probably the history of any game I've ever played in my life. So as far as hipfire goes, I think the Thunder Burst SMG wins out, especially if you're a controller player. But even if you aren't a controller player, it's just like inarguably significantly more accurate than the Combat AR. And so, in addition to being a great complement to the Gatekeeper shotgun for that reason, I think this hipfire is also super important whenever you're gloving around, because you can swap to it and then shoot in the sky accurately. So when you want to push someone with gloves, if you don't want to go for the ground pound, you can do this. If you're pushing somebody with gloves who's also using gloves, you can, swap to your Burst SMG and hipfire them. Also, whenever a player is using the Magneto item, if they're just up in the sky, you have the option of getting up in the sky yourself with gloves. Now it's much harder for them to hit you with the Magneto, and you could just start bursting them as you fall if you're fast enough at swapping weapons. Some players aren't comfortable enough swapping weapons to really make this happen, but if you are, then you have like a perfectly accurate hipfire weapon from the sky, so it's just very good. I've also made use of this pretty often when fighting around Loot Island, because some people just like jump off the island, and being able to just like jump off yourself and then burst them and then catch them with gloves, or maybe just not even be worried about the fall damage because you have nitro, I think is really nice. And then also, whenever someone gets in a car that I'm in, just being able to get out and then burst them with the Thunder Burst SMG hipfire and just hit all headshots, I feel like works incredibly well. The Combat AR would also work fine here, but I feel more inclined to ADS with the Combat AR in those situations and then spray them. That just takes a little bit longer and is a little more inconvenient than just hipfiring the burst into the opponent's head and just quickly eliminating them. And then also, if you guys have ever been in those situations where like you're in a car, an opponent gets in, you get out to shoot them, and then they get out as you shoot them, and then you're just kind of like, you and the opponent are both getting in and out of the car. I feel like just like getting out, shooting one burst, getting back in works a bit better than like, or not a bit better, but it's a little easier to time than the Combat AR, where you have to think about like how many shots am I going to shoot, whereas like the Thunder Burst works great for this because it's simply just one burst. The final thing I want to talk about is that the Combat AR is definitely better at long range. If I had an opponent like 80 plus meters away and I had to use my spray weapon, I would definitely rather have the Combat AR than the Thunder Burst SMG. But the thing about that is, like, with how this season plays out, I don't think those long range fights with your spray weapon are super important because there's so much mobility in this season. We got gloves, we got shockwaves, we got like nitro sprint, we got cars that are incredibly prevalent. It feels like if I have someone in that situation, like let's say 80 meters away, they're out in the open, no cover, they're not just going to sit there and let me spray them down. If they're an opponent that is like a threat in the match, so like if it's an AI or an opponent that just isn't very good at the game, then like sure, they might just like sit there and take the damage and then you kill them. But like for the people that are threatening, they're often not just going to sit there and let you AR them to death. And so that makes me inclined to not want to use my spray weapon for that, because like I'm going to pick my weapons for the players that I think are a threat. If someone is like not threatening or an AI, then you could probably beat them with like whatever, you know? So with how prevalent mobility is, I feel like if I'm fighting a good player and I maybe catch them out in the open, it's going to be hard for that to even translate into a kill because of the gloves, because of shockwaves, because of cars. So that is like kind of one of the main reasons why the Thunder Burst SMG is my preferred weapon. Like the Combat AR does have its advantages for sure, but the advantages the Combat AR has, I just don't feel like is that relevant versus a solid player this season. And so the Thunder Burst SMG's like pros, the things that Thunder Burst SMG does better, I think is very relevant versus a threatening player. And then also the long range options this season are pretty good. Like the sniper and the boom bolt. If I'm fighting someone really long range, I don't want to deal with like either of those items and be peeking into them with my AR. So I just tend to not take those fights and fight more in kind of like close to medium range. And for me, the Thunder Burst SMG works out best for that. But like I had already said in the video, the Combat AR is not a bad weapon by any means. I'm not saying it's trash and you should never use it. I'm just explaining why I prefer the Thunder Burst and why I think it is the best spray weapon for close to medium range. And with how this season plays out, I think close to medium range fights are the most important fights. But that is going to be it for this video. I'm probably going to let some gameplay play out from stream. If you guys did enjoy this, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. On map. So like the end of this chapter event will take place on the chapter 2 map, so it's just like odd. But I don't know, like I said, the events were never like the biggest thing to me. I had way too much faith in his car. The Welch? This meta? Yeah. I did not mean to do that. I thought there was somebody else in Brawlers. Which paddle do I have for sprint? Bottom left. And why do I have it as hold sprint? Because that's just how I enjoy having it, and that's how like every game I've ever played has been for like 20 years of playing video games. If you want to have like toggle sprint, then like you can do that, but I don't know. Every game I've ever played has been like hold sprints. That's just how I like having it. Yeah, I thought that Goku was gonna get out, but like I think I had hit him a little bit. I didn't do the pickaxe, but it's like he's gonna take damage there. GG's, Nick 30.